yourself a bad day, dark feelings are back, assaulting your heart with a panic attack.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the ANDYSMANCLUB podcast. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for all your support that we've had for the last couple of weeks with the pods that we've already put out there. It's great to see so many listens and comments and feedback. Always love to see what everybody's comments are and see how they're getting on with those podcasts. We've got another fantastic guest today. So without further ado, as we always do within our ANDYSMANCLUB sessions, we normally start with a what's your name and a positive reason for being here. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you Mark Williams. Mark, how are you doing?
Hi, you okay, Andy? You okay?
Very well, pal. Thank you. Very well. So obviously we know who you are now, but tell us a little bit of the reason why yourself and have come on the ANDYSMANCLUB podcast and the sort of things that you are involved with at the moment.
Yeah. Obviously, from a lived experience, nearly 17 years ago now, witnessing my wife go for birth trauma and obviously severe post-natal depression. And as a father, I really struggled with my mental health, and I didn't know at the time I had an undiagnosed disorder called ADHD, which is, I'm 47 now. So being diagnosed at 40, obviously, it was a big shock, So there's it was various reasons why I got into this field, obviously. But yeah, I've been working in mental health for about 13, 14 years now, and but I actually been doing work in fathers for around about 11, 12 years. So set up a support group, and only for fathers with their partners with post-natal depression. What we were finding, a lot of mums used to phone us up and say, I'm fine, but my husband is struggling, and that's impacting on my mental health and our relationship. And everything, when you think about post-natal depression, when it comes to mothers, there's not one that dads can't experience too. So it's about breaking the stigma, explaining, because it's always been associated with hormones. Well, there's a hormone change in fathers, but it's very much, thoughts not good enough, can't bond with the baby, various reasons, which I can explain later on as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really important subject for us to cover. It's certainly something that I can relate to. Obviously, my little boy now is 7, but I remember just after he was born, obviously, the pressure ramped straight up. The expectation of you as a father ramped straight up, and then things like fathers being expected to go back to work after 2 weeks off, and things like that. Having to work, having to do all these different things and still be involved as a father with little or no sleep, all these other things. It just creates such a difficult time for parents, doesn't it? Especially dads, I think, within the the expectations that are on them.
Absolutely. And what's shocking is, unfortunately, because there's no screening and support for new dads, what happens is the fathers end up in crisis type teams sometimes after the postnatal period, really. Lack of sleep, severe lack of sleep can cause psychosis, on its own, So there's various reasons why fathers can struggle during this time. You're not just looking after yourself now, you're looking after a little baby, as well as your relationship can change with your partner as well, So yeah, it's about educating people about in witnessing trauma, birth trauma. Now, PTSD is an anxiety disorder, either witnessing or experiencing a life-threatening event, Andy. So, and I've worked in secure nets, so witnessed horrific things in my life. Still to this day, nothing worse thinking your wife and baby's going to die in front of you as well, and it had a massive impact on my own mental health.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, something that I went through as well, obviously, we've only got the one son, but it was our second pregnancy. Obviously, the first pregnancy, we had a miscarriage in there. And I remember going through the whole 9 months of the second pregnancy, for want of a better phrase, shitting myself, thinking, what happens if this happens again? What happens if this happens again? Fortunately, touch wood, obviously, I've now got a healthy, happy 7-year-old boy. But going through that whole period, like you say, was a nightmare, and I was permanently on edge.
Absolutely. This is the thing, antenatal anxiety, or as you know, high stress leads to anxiety, depression. And as we know, the biggest killer under 45, in the UK is suicide. And a lot of people, the research I've found as well, it's actually high risk of suicide in the perinatal period for dads as well. Because what happens is, like I mentioned with mums for years ago, they weren't picked up, we were in services. And that's what's happened with fathers, unfortunately. They go into mental health services and they don't actually get the root of the cause why it's happened sometimes. So this is great what I'm actually talking to today, because trying to raise awareness. And I'm working with Dr. Jane Hanley for the last 10 years. So, I'm speaking to the parents, I've been fortunate to have a good knowledge. Still learning. That's the thing about mental health. I'm still learning. I'll never know everything about mental health, but I'm always keen to learn off other people as well.
Definitely. And you said you were keen to learn off other people. Obviously, pointing out your accent there, we were talking just before we came on air there. You're aware of the clubs that we've got running in and around the area, aren't you? You've sort of dabbled into those and gone and seen what Andy's Man Club can offer to the dads and things like that you can refer to. What was your experience like of going to an AMC, first of all, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I remember they only had 3. I think Luke had started with 3 clubs, one in Bridgend first, on Brewfield, and I was like, Andy Man's Club, what's this all about? And I think it was 2016 I think around that time, and I've seen it grow, and it's been absolutely amazing what you guys are doing. But I actually went to one in Puffcore with Pete, and unfortunately my wife was unwell about 2 years ago, and yeah, it was great because I could actually go to the club and just talk, and I like the structure of the club and way it just felt really at ease, you know. So and then I was doing some work in Manchester, and then obviously knowing Dan Rowe, and we met up, and I went to the Manchester club as well, and yeah, it was huge. The Manchester club was really big as well, wasn't it? You know, it's
yeah.
Just having a conversation. Yeah, it was oh gosh, you know, promoting. I love to see every place have an Andy Man's Club, you know.
Well, it's certainly something that we're wanting to push. Obviously, you've touched on the Porthcawl Club there. We've obviously now got another one in the area as well, in the Rhondda Valley. You know, with you touching on the Manchester one there, I remember being at the opening of the Manchester one and sort of expecting, you know, I'll be sort of semi-popular, this in a nice big city, we might get sort of 12, 13 lads in. And I remember the first night, I think we had something in the region of 28 lads walk through the door. It was just almost like open the door at 1, 2, 3. They just kept coming in, and it was like, wow. But again, that just shows the power of what talking can do, and the fact that guys need a place to be able to go and speak, and guys need to be able to go somewhere like, obviously you spoke as well about your own support group that you got set up for the dads as well, haven't you?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it lasted 3 years. I passed over to another charity. I went down more changing the policies then, you know, campaigning, trying to get, which we have changed policies, long-term plans, NHS, and especially in Wales. So I'm more of a policy, not just at UK, trying to change the World Health Organization now to acknowledge the fact that fathers, paternal mental health, they call it, can suffer as well. So that's coming really close, and obviously set them International Father's Mental Health Day, and which is always a day after Father's Day, June the 21st this year. So it's not just a UK concern, it's a global concern when it comes to fathers, especially perinatal mental health. And I think it's good that you set one up in Porth as well, because I'm from the Valley community. You know, my father's of mine and my grandfather of mine has very much, you know, we've got a problem, let's go down the pub sort of thing. And yeah. I struggled for years until I actually had a breakdown, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I wish there was an Andy Man's Club around at the time as well for me, you know, but it's such an area that, you know, in the valleys, you know, I'm not going to say some, you know, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of people struggling with their mental health for various reasons. So it's great that Porth have actually going there as well. Brilliant.
That's going from strength to strength as well. Obviously, Kyle, the guy that's involved down there, and the team that he's got with him, they're tireless down there. So yeah, I'm sure it won't be too long before we've got other clubs popping up in the area as well. You spoke there about the change of policies that you've gone through. I know that obviously you've visited Parliament, you've visited Downing Street and various different things on that journey as well, haven't you? So do you want to tell us a little bit about how those sort of things came about, and, you know, getting out to raise awareness in those areas, which obviously, as we know, are vital?
Yeah, absolutely. We're aiming for an all-party parliamentary group now. There's one with Future Men. So I did a policy, I did a report during lockdown, and all the 5-year evidence, well, 10-year evidence really. So all the research evidence, the science, everything that we know about fathers is actually in a document now, in a report, and there's something tangible, and then we can give the policy makers and obviously nice guidelines, even nice guidelines, a pathway. There's nothing on fathers on a CG 192 nice guidelines. So I'm proud to say that we've actually created a pathway as well, and so we can get a proper pathway for the fathers to get that support. You know, like you said, some dads just need that, have a chat. I know there's other fathers feeling like that, and that's enough. You don't see him again. But then obviously in the work I've done over the years, I've had to break confidentiality where the fathers had actually made plans to take their lives as well. And, you know, so I'm coming from Bridgend, you know, I'm actually a youth worker originally from 2006, still a youth worker. I was out with them last night. And because our youth club helped me as a child, because I didn't know, in school I had a lot of low self-esteem. I was very hyperactive. I'm still hyperactive now. I'm 47 next, you know, Andy, but you know, certainly I didn't have good self-esteem. So the youth club helped me and youth work. So I've gone back and the reason I mention that is because unfortunately in Bridgend in 2007, 2008, there was a lot of young suicides were taking their lives. And that was the reason why I got into mental health. I started going in suicide assist courses, you know, mental health courses, and I had an interest in mental health. So, you know, it worked. You know, unfortunately, something bad came out, and we got to break the stigma on suicide as well, because it did affect our community as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I think it was well documented, that, wasn't it? And it was you know, great that obviously Andy's Man Club were able to go into the area as early as we were able to, and that's, you know, it's been a consistent. South Wales has obviously been an area that has had a lot of attention as far as suicide is concerned, and it's definitely an area that we want to be looking into and to be building as stronger links and communities as we possibly can do. So yeah, it's great to see that obviously we've got such support in those areas, and fantastic to move on forward with. Just before we move on to the Little Andy's Man Club session that we've got, just to touch on, you know, the experience that you had. Obviously, I know that you were aware of Andy's Man Club and things like that. From walking through the door, obviously something that we tried to speak to a lot of guys about, and obviously from yourself with fathers especially. How difficult do you think it was to actually be able to walk up to somewhere like that? Obviously, I know you had a background in mental health and things like that, but how did you find it actually walking through the door? Did you have to sort of pick up a bit of courage in the car park? Did you have to have a little bit of a, right, come on, chin up, chest out, come on, off we go? What was that experience like for you, actually walking through the doors of a club?
Yeah, certainly. I think for me personally, because obviously I knew Pete, obviously, and I remember it was a gentleman actually wasn't going to go into the club, and you know, we had a chat outside and stuff, and we actually went in together, and then he met the group, and then I remember going to the second group session, and he was there, and yeah, he's really offloaded, and I could see the benefit from the second group. He just felt, like I said, you know, we express all his feelings, and it's like a genie bottle, and it all comes out then. So that's what I seen with Andy Man's Club. Obviously, the way the guys were talking, but yeah, it is hard, you know, going for the door first of all. But what I will say is, once you do go for a door, it was great. And even, you know, running support groups and working in the field, I got a lot out there myself. You know, I couldn't talk even today. You know, my wife was struggling. I couldn't tell my wife I was feeling as well. I didn't want to impact on her mental health. So it was great to go to a place where I could talk to other people and about these who had similar, and had empathy as well, and understanding as well, which is good. It's a big myth that men don't talk. You know, when you get them in a safe place like that, and people who got empathy and understanding, they will talk. And as you know yourselves, they will talk. You know,
yeah. We say it quite a lot that, you know, that there is this, you know, stigma around men talking. They say men don't talk unless they're given a platform to do so. If given a platform to do so, and, you know, many people listening to this podcast will have heard similar stories to this, because I'm sure that a lot of the guys that are listening to this, and a lot of people are either friends or family members or colleagues or people that have gone, that have sort of said, oh, well, this is what I go to on a Monday night, sort of thing. But the amount of stories that we get from guys that have either said, well, I drove past 3 times, I've told my missus I've been the last 3 weeks and it's been great, and I've not actually had the courage to step through the door, who then make it through the door, and, you know, the strides that they make, as you said, are phenomenal.
Yeah,
We've had guys.
Brilliant it is, honestly. I'm not just saying it, Andy, honestly. That's why I'm so happy to do the podcast today, because a lot of fathers may not understand, you know, especially new dads, you know, having a new baby, because some of the figures, you won't believe it, you know, 1 in 10 dads actually suffer from postnatal depression. At least once we get, now it's 1 in 10 for years for mums, but once you start screening and assessing dads better, we'll find it a lot higher. And some of the reports recently have said, you know, 39% of new dads want the support for their mental health, 34% are not with their child full time. We got 50% chance of having depression, go through depression, say, if your partner's got postnatal depression as well. So, you know, these are really high figures. And in COVID, we've seen it even increase, but we've seen a lot of good benefits with COVID as well, with fathers being home and they can bond and have a skin to skin. Yeah. So if there's any new dads watching today, skin to skin actually releases oxytocin, which is good for dad and the baby as well. So the more you engage, the better, you know, skin to skin. Always remember, it's good for dad and the baby.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can certainly remember when my little lad was tiny. I used to love those times. I'm almost getting that little warm feeling inside me now that I used to get when we, you know, just used to cuddle up to him and he'd fall asleep on me or whatever. It was great. Just what sort of stuck out to me then with the figures you were talking about there, Matt, was that's the figures of men that are actually willing to come forward and speak, that are willing to come forward and say to their doctor or somebody else that this is what they're going through. It's likely that those figures are actually much higher, isn't it? Because of this stigma around men talking. We've already talked about the pressures on fathers, you know, the expectation, the lack of sleep, everything else like that that's going on. They don't want to be perceived as weak, especially if they're trying to be a pillar of strength for the missus who might be going through whatever, you know, postnatal depression. Obviously, there might be medical issues after birth and all those sort of different things.
I miscarried what you just said, Andy. What you got, what you just said now, as well as, men not even asked about their mental health, and they've gone for that as well. Sorry, you're right. Yeah. Sorry, interrupted there. Over talking.
Not at all. I think it's a really interesting point, because obviously the whole thing that we're, ourselves and yourself, obviously, trying to promote is, if you're having an issue, go and speak to somebody about it. There are things like you've just said that are changing at a governmental level, and all these different type of things to get these type of things recognised. And those stigmas just need to be blown away. And
Andy, my work's never been about taking attention away from my mum. Never has been.
No,
but we've got to understand that dads, some dads undiagnosed bipolar, schizophrenia, ADHD, ASD, and they self-managing that, and then the baby comes on, lack of sleep, and the witness of both trauma, then financial costs, then they got to stay home, overwhelmed, loneliness. I've never felt so lonely in the first year of fatherhood, and I'm so laid back. I remember punching the sofa and busting my hand. I was even starting fights with bouncers, because when I did manage to get out with my friends for the first time ever, because when somebody was hitting me, it was like a form of self-harm. So we got to look at personality changes in fathers. Are you more overwhelmed? Are you avoiding situations? Are you, even BMI rates is higher in new fathers than non-fathers as well. So there's loads of reasons why fathers can struggle in the postnatal period, which is the first year after baby's been born. So the only way I describe my friends is, if it was no pregnancy or baby, I wouldn't add suicidal thoughts in the postnatal period. So it's that, that more or less a simple way of putting it. Because you can imagine the stigma. I remember when I first started, how can men have postnatal depression? Because they're always associated with the hormones. There's no real evidence that says, any doctor or professor in this field will tell you, there's no really strong evidence that says that. It's mostly called it the baby blues sort of thing. Yeah. But then, anxiety, depression, obviously, it's, as we both know ourselves, it can impact on anyone, as we know.
Definitely. I think it was really key what you said right back at the beginning of what you said there as well, that it's never been about taking away from the mothers, because, obviously they've been through physical, really hard, as we're fully aware. I think something that's key for me within that is, if, as a dad, if you're struggling, go and tell somebody, because then you can be there more for the missus. You can make sure that you're able to get up with the baby. You're able to do these things that maybe take the little bit of the responsibility off her, because you've got the support as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You breastfeed everything. So if the father is well or have been supported, he's more likely to read, sing, and have that play, which is really important in the child's development as well. And the work I'm doing interlinks with absent fathers, loads of things over the years as well. So if we can support dads better for the mental health during this time, and even adverse childhood experiences as well, so we can actually lower those adverse childhood experiences for the next generation. So, and a lot of parents have gone for those experience, trauma, anxiety, before they become parents as well, and haven't even had that support, So like you said, you're right. If that is, dad, baby, same gender parents, everyone should be entitled for the same support. I'm all about gender equality.
100%. Something that's just jumped out as well, I've almost been sort of, it's been great for me, is this, because I'm sort of thinking back to when my little boy was tiny, and, just made me think it was a conversation me and my missus had just a couple of weeks ago, actually. I was really struggling at one point with, I perceived that I wasn't bonding with my child, because every time my child cried, he looked to his mum. Every time something went wrong, he went to his mum, and I was sort of like, well, I might as well not bloody be here, sort of thing, and went through that. Whereas now, my missus is very much of the same, well, I don't like football. He's not sitting down with me on an evening and doing this, that, the other. And, just something that's sort of come from my own sort of experience from that I just wanted to sort of put in is patience. I think is massive. I was so frustrated, because obviously I this little bundle of magnificence had, arrived in my life and everything else. And I wanted so much to bond with him. And, that bond doesn't have to come like that, does it? It can,
and you look at the science, Dr. Anna Mitchin says this really beautifully, and you look at the science that can take, a long. This is the thing with fathers as well. I certainly, I think it is overwhelming feeling love for my son when he was born. I was just relieved he was alive because I thought, I was going to lose him and my wife, obviously, in that time, So, yeah, and obviously that grew. I think when I was home for that 6 months, because I couldn't get to work because Michelle was unwell, and, I was actually skin to skin, doing all this stuff. And so that bonding did grow then, grew. But certainly that's what we got to make aware of, that sometimes, it can take a bit longer, but, stick in there, just be involved and as best you can. And like I said, it is hard being a parent, we got to talk about the bad stuff and the not so good stuff. And it's okay not to be okay some days when you're a new dad or a new mum, and don't put pressure on yourself. I think social media as well, a lot of things pressure. I think we've seen different pressures with COVID as well, when fathers haven't been able to go into scans and support their partners better. So we have seen a bigger increase with antenatal anxiety in fathers at the present, unfortunately. But the benefits will come out obviously as well when more dads are home. And even when it comes to parental leave, unfortunately parents, we like to see both parents spending more time together and support each other, and more investment in the early years, as they say, as well.
Yeah, definitely. That was something that really popped up to me. Like I said, I was thinking about it this morning when I was getting ready, thinking, I'm meeting Mark today, things that we could talk about. And that was something that popped up, that 2 weeks for a dad to spend with his child, to bond with his child, to do all these different things, just isn't enough.
And you just remind me, I got to tell you this, because that's the thing with ADHD, the idea comes in and it goes. Basically, this is one thing that I do work with a midwife. Sometimes the dad haven't had that practice with the nappy changes, and mum's home and dad comes home, and attention, mum might say, give me the nappy, baby, you're too slow, or the grandparents. And then dad will, okay, you carry on. And you mentioned it just now, you carry on. But we got to mention, give dads a confidence as well. So antenatal class is really important for dads. Build that confidence up, and because they don't, the importance of skin to skin and being involved in the early years as well. There's a good video called the Still Face Experiment on YouTube. Definitely recommend anyone to have a look at that. It just says why it's important. And with more, mum is in parliament now, and dads are home, stay-at-home dads, single dads. Society has changed, so is another reason why we have to support fathers during the perinatal period as well, So yeah, it's great talking to you. You get my mind thinking of I got to tell you this, so it's good. It's good.
Well, that's what we want. It's okay to talk about these things, you've just. I had something in mind then, and my train of thought's gone. So
and I'll tell you this: to the research, up to 47 times more risk of suicide in the perinatal period, and that's to do with diagnosis mostly, So this is all in this evidence now, where we're trying to change policies and get dads screened like mums. So it is coming. It is coming slowly. We have changed the long-term plan. So fathers will be screened for their mental health, but it's only if mum is in special services, perinatal services. My argument is, like we mentioned, sometimes it's only dad. And sometimes you just need that support, like an MentL or some sort of, education around skin to skin and all that stuff as well. So that's why I love MentL, because you catching people where, unfortunately, as sadly that people take their lives, through service.
Well, if we can reach one man at a time, it's one, as we always say, it's one family that has still got a son, it's one mother that's still got one sister that's still got a brother, etc., etc. It's what it's all about. So just as we've talked about Andy's Man Club there, we'll go into what we usually do as part of our podcast, which is jump straight into an Andy's Man Club session. Do this to sort of give guys a bit of a feeling. They might be sort of, heard a little bit about us, but maybe not too sure about what it is that we do and how do the sessions run. This session will run exactly how our session on Monday just ran. We're going to use the same list of questions. I'm going to introduce it in the very same way. Literally everything that Andy's Man Club is going to be laid out for you guys now to hopefully make one guy sort of go, actually, do you know what? That's for me. That I'll go give that a go, and I'll go give it a try. So, welcome to Andy's Man Club. First thing to say is that can talk as much or as little as you feel comfortable to do so. We normally talk about confidentiality, but obviously, seeing as though we're on a podcast that's being broadcast to the world, it's not too confidential. But normally our sessions are. It's the three subjects, please, that I could ask us not to discuss. Those would be politics, religion, and medication. Politics and religion, obviously, two very divisive subjects. What can be the pillar holding one person up can be the very opposite for somebody else. And obviously medication, we're not professionals, so we can't offer any sort of input on that. So we'll go straight in with, how's your week been? My week this week has been really, really good. I've actually massively enjoyed this week. I've not been out doing too many different sort of, outward facing things really. I've been doing what I call the hard yards behind the scenes, trying to contact organisations, trying to raise awareness of AMC through, try to set up links and different things like that. But that said, yesterday I had 2 face-to-face meetings with people. I actually went and met other human beings and did my job with them, which was fantastic. And within the areas that I was working with there, obviously we touched on, we mentioned Dan Rowe earlier. Dan's now running our Altrincham Club, and I'm trying to do some work to obviously get the Altrincham Club recognised at the moment. So I went and met Trafford Council yesterday, so that was good. And I then went into a bail hostel as well, quite local to where we are here in Halifax, to speak to the guys that were in there. So an absolutely banging week for myself. On a personal level, last weekend, really enjoyed. It was the last weekend of the football season. And as a football fan of a team who's just recently been promoted, promoted last year, we've had a really decent season. So I've massively enjoyed that. And while we're talking about, obviously, parental things, the bond between myself and my son, since lockdown started, he's massively got into football. I got home from work last night and he was outside in the garden. There's literally no grass left on my lawn anymore. It's literally just a football pitch for him and our dog to charge around with each other on. So, yeah, I've had a really solid week this week and looking forward to what is now going to be a bank holiday weekend where they've promised us a little bit of sun. So fingers crossed on that. I know this might not be released this week. It'll probably give people an idea of when we recorded it, but that's my week this week. So Mark, how's your week been?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I watched my son play senior football for the first time, and I was a coach with him for years. To see him go for all those years, and then now pass him over the seniors, that was great. Did a conference yesterday in Africa. That's a good thing online now. It's all online. You don't have to. So that was good. Doing a lot of walking, exercises. Just did a chapter in a book called Dad. It's a new book by music, football, and fatherhood. That's come out. It's the chapter that I received a copy of there. Doing some articles, stuff like that, and done a bit of training, obviously, and consultancy now as well for the NHS and stuff. So, it's good. And my wife, obviously, we went out yesterday with our youth club. We had a couple of tables, social distancing. So it was great to see people from the youth club and the youth club back open now as well. So, it's been good. It's been really good.
Brilliant. Really positive couple of weeks there. It's good to hear that those things are happening. And like you say, being able to get out and about again and do some things that are borderline normal just feels enormous at the moment, doesn't it? So we'll go on to question number 2. Those of you that are familiar with AMC will know that question number 2, again, every single week is always what's been one positive from your week. Now, for me, on Saturday, this is a positive out of a negative because my missus wanted to go to IKEA. I know we've just said how good it is to return to normality, but IKEA is just a step too far for me. Most blokes say they love it. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I basically said that I've been with my missus now for 15 years, and she still asks me my opinion on blinds and curtains and things that I have. They look lovely in my house. Yeah, they look great. Really not bothered what they look. I honestly am one of those blokes that interior design and all those different types of things do not appeal to me. So we went to IKEA, but the bonus of going to IKEA was that on the way home, we come past my grandma's house. Now, my grandma's 98. Obviously, we've not been able to see her too much over the last year. So I was able to call in and have a cup of tea in the garden with my granny. It was, I think, as well, the 2 hours of the whole weekend that it didn't absolutely bounce down with rain. So we were able to sit in a summer house and a bit of sunshine, and my lad was playing spring ball on the garden and things like that. So, yeah, it was just a really nice couple of hours spent after the sheer hell of IKEA. So, yeah, that's been the positive from my week. What about yourself, Matt?
Yeah. I think IKEA. Yeah, I can't do IKEA either. I can't. And gosh, and I've been with Michelle for over 24 years now. Never had one argument that I've won. But on a thing like we don't been doing a lot of walking. My wife works for Mental Health Matters Wales actually, so we don't tend to talk about mental health when we get home. So it's just nice. Yeah, we're positive really. We're just walking up mountains, doing a lot of walking and doing a coastline as well. So we did Swansea coastline on last week, so that was good. Yeah, that was a positive. So luckily for me, we went past IKEA, so it was good.
Yeah, I could have quite happily gone past IKEA and not into it as well. But, you know, I suppose another bonus of that is that, you know, I did something for the missus and she got a nice trip to IKEA out of it. And, you know, I wandered
you had a cheap hot dog as well. So
I skipped the hot dog at the end. I skipped it because the queue was phenomenal. So I was like, I'm not standing in that for a hot dog. No, so we'll come on to question number 3 then. Question number 3 again is always, every single week, is there anything you need to get off your chest? I'm in a fortunate position this week. I think if I'd have been asked this question last week, irrelevant of being on a podcast, I think I would have absolutely unleashed. I'd had a bit of a frustrating week last week in lots of different ways, more personal than anything else. But yeah, I'd had a really sort of tough, frustrating week, different things offering challenges, and I wasn't really responding to those challenges in the most productive way. Whereas this week, I've managed to flip that on its head. And as I said previously, I have a really strong and positive week. So I've not really got anything to get off my chest this week. Anything from yourself, Matt?
Yeah, I think, well, unfortunately, my wife, Michelle, we lost my mother-in-law. Obviously, my wife during lockdown, unexpected, yeah. Which unfortunately I found on the sofa, unexpected, you know, she was 63 at aneurysm. That was, you know, so that was hard, you know, in October. Obviously, my wife's going through a bit of grief counselling as well and different things after the 6 months now. Well, it's over 6 months. So yeah, that's really, you know, something I need to get off my chest. Like really, just say, look, you know, but it's going forward. You know, everything in place, the support's in place. She works for the organisations, so it's all in place. But yeah, you know, losing her mum was really tough, and my mother-in-law, you know, as well. So that was tough. But yeah, it's all. So that's one thing I want to get off my chest today, which I've done.
Well, again, I'm glad that you've had that opportunity to, and you know, I can only offer you and your wife our condolences, and let us know if there is anything that obviously we can do to help you out with that one. So, question 4 and 5, as we're aware, every single week change. So we've got question number 4 this week is, besides "It's okay to talk," which obviously we know is everybody's favourite quote, what is your favourite quote? Now, mine, I could come up with a list of quotes from obscure films that me and my brothers watched growing up, to Alan Partridge, to various other different comedy shows that, you know, are my favourite quotes. But do you know what? I had one that I'm going to go. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go down a different route. Obviously, I spoke earlier about my love of football, and the particular football team that I support have a quote attached to them that's "marching on together." I'm a Leeds fan, for the, you know, those that aren't aware.
Leeds! I was waiting. Yeah.
So marching on together, like I said, I know that that's obviously something that, you know, has been great for me as a football fan over the years, but I sort of flipped that when I answered this question the other week and made it into, for me, that's about when you're in a, you know, backs against the wall situation, to know that you've got people around you, reach out to people, speak to people. You know, it's almost not too dissimilar to me for "As It's Okay to Talk." Do you know what I mean? If you're striding towards a goal and a target, go and stride towards it, and there'll be people behind you that are pushing you and pulling you and trying to get you into the same sort of area as well. So that would be mine. I lost my train of thought there. I did have one in my mind, but I lost my train of thought on it. So I'll go with that one just because it popped up because I talked about football a couple of minutes previously.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mark, what is your favourite quote?
Yeah, season ticket holders, me and my son with Cardiff City. So I won't go too much there. So I'm not going to say nothing about Cardiff City at the moment. But
it was your first game of lockdown last year. You can take that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to get back down there. Honestly, even if the football's bad, I just want to get back down there now. But yeah, do you know a quote? Yeah, never look down on anyone unless you're helping them up.
Brilliant.
And the other one I would always say, if you're going to buy two things, buy the best bed or best pair of shoes. Because if you're not in one, you're in the other.
Yeah, definitely. I love both of those, and you know, just going with that one, that's something else that's sort of resonated, is the sort of buy cheap, buy twice. It's something that I've had a conversation with my missus this week. I think it was while we were in IKEA. She sort of turned around and says, "Oh, it's only cheap." I says, "Yeah, you buy cheap, you buy twice." So you know that sort of fits with that one. Okay, question number 5 this week is, I know it's always a quick fire, is question number 5. What would your specialist subject be on Mastermind?
Oh,
so
are you go first, Dan?
I'll go first. Yeah, again, the facilitator always sort of goes first in AMC. So my specialist subject on Mastermind would probably be some sort of useless sport fact. I'm going to go with probably obscure 90s footballers. Just, random 90s footballers and, the clubs that they might have played for. When this question was asked in the club a couple of weeks ago, I was in a club when one of the guys turned around and said that throughout lockdown, something they'd been doing was screenshotting Wikipedia articles about footballers and just sending them as, who's this? And it's something that me and my mates have started doing. Since they said it in that session, it's something we've started doing. And we just love it because it's you sort of sit there and go, bloody hell, he played for, Bradford City and Man United and Middlesbrough. Who's this? But yeah, it would be something like that. I don't think it'd be a specialist subject on Mastermind. It'd probably have to be its own standalone quiz show. But yeah,
yeah.
obscure 90s footballers I'm going to go with.
I think it's got to be the life and times of Georgie Best. I think I met Georgie Best years ago at a Puff Call. Funny enough, it was Puff Call Rugby Club. Was it Puff Call? No, Puff Call Football Club. Sorry, the football club. Puff Call Football Club. Yeah, we were running it in the high tide in Puff Call, and we met, the gentleman's evening sort of thing. A comedian, and so I've always been a fan of George Best, and so so life and times of Georgie Best. Yeah, he actually played for. I can't even pronounce it. Nottingham, Nuneaton.
Oh,
yeah. He played for Bournemouth. A lot of clubs people don't know about as well. So
he just gets focused on that team that play in red. That
we won't go there. Well, we can go there. After the result recently, but
I'm sure there might be some Man United fans listening. If you need to go to AMC, then feel free to do so. So that is basically as an AMC runs. Those 2 questions at the end change every single week. And, obviously myself and Mark, obviously 2 sport fans, we've talked quite a lot about sport in there and things like that. But there will be guys there that will talk about motor racing or, anything. I sat in a session a couple of years ago where one guy spoke about his specialist subject on Mastermind would have been jewellery making. Do you know what I mean? And he was sat next to a lad whose specialist subject was something like monster trucks and things like that, but they were still just getting on such a level. So yeah, the range of answers that you normally get when you've got a group bigger than 2 is quite staggering. So that's exactly as an Andy's Man Club works. So hopefully somebody will see that and sort of go, yeah, actually it's not as scary as I possibly think it might be. So
exactly. You're right. Definitely. If there's anyone out there, just do it. Honestly, just do it.
Love that. Right then, Mark, we're going to come on to the finisher that we always use as part of our podcast, which is our 3, 2, 1. And that is 3 ways that you promote positive mental health, 2 pieces of advice that you'd like to share with us, and 1 thing that made you smile or laugh recently. So I'm going to put you on the spot and come straight in with your 3 ways that you promote positive mental health.
Yeah, emotional well-being. Yeah, as in like on social media or to people?
Any way at all, it could be things that you do for yourself, things that you would...
for myself, yeah. So I got you, yeah. So I got like a checklist I have, like, so for instance, if I'm, eating well, if I'm over, working too much, those sort of things. So I check in myself and then I write things down as well, so if there's any thoughts and like CBT, that works for me. Like I said, I'm very person-centered. What might not work for you might not work, for me, sort of thing. But that works for me, like, for instance. So and exercise, walking, like I said, emotional. We all got and sometimes it can be bad, can't it, sometimes? And it's knowing those triggers and knowing when to actually take a step back and think, okay, let's have a look at this and change our way we doing things, I should say, as well. So and even speaking, getting that offloading as well. Yeah.
Love those 3 massive ways of promoting positive mental health there, Mark. Thank you for those. 2 pieces of advice that you'd like to share. And they can be pieces of advice on anything at all.
Anything. Not football, mental health, mostly mental health, yeah.
They can be if you'd like them to be, but they can be literally anything. It can be don't eat snow if you want.
Oh gosh, bit of advice. Don't suffer in silence. I know everyone says that, but a lot of them. But seriously, don't let it get to the point where, it can get to crisis. So, speak to somebody. Speak to somebody. Make sure, like I said, go to an Andy-Man's club, and don't do what I've done. Well, I've learned, and and that's why I try to promote as well. Don't suffer in silence.
Brilliant. And one more piece of advice.
One more advice: educate yourself as well, especially on parents. Parents and education. Education is power. Nelson Mandela said once. So educate yourself about it, and about mental health in general. And that will stop the stigma on people talking.
Definitely. I love both of those. They're definitely something that I'll make sure get pushed out there when we promote this podcast, because I think they're really powerful. And just to finish off, one thing that's made you laugh or smile recently?
Oh God, I shouldn't say this really. My son, I'm in the attic, and and he's even actually taller than me. He's a good centre half, and as he's going down the stairs, I say, "Watch you," and he banged his head. I shouldn't laugh, but and where he is as well, because his ears are he's a type of it didn't hurt him anyway, but yeah, and he does the same to me. He laughs if I do silly things as well. So we got a bit of banter going on. We have. Let's go.
Love it. Always great to finish on a positive there. So thank you so much for joining us today, Mark. It's been a massively powerful.
I've enjoyed it, Andy. Honestly, it's gone quick. I really enjoyed it, and
it's fun, man.
I just want to say thanks, for everyone what they do in Andy-Man's Club, and it's such a need for. I'm always telling people about different areas I go in, and actually Andy-Man's Club is actually in this report I did as well. Just so
that's what we like to hear.
That is actually here somewhere. Here it is, Andy-Man's Club. It's the top one. I don't think you can see it there. Actually, Brilliant. On the website. So yeah, I'm always promoting Andy-Man's Club, so it's good.
Love that. Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody that's tuned in and taken a bit of time aside to listen to what me and Mark have had to say today. I think it's, as I say, I think it's been a really powerful and positive last sort of 40-45 minutes that we spent together. So thanks to everybody that's listened. Anybody that has checked out that little section in the middle and is now interested in getting along to a club, they're all open Monday night, 7 p.m, except bank holidays. No referral, no registration, no signing in, no cost, no obligation to speak. You can turn up there, grab a brew, sit and talk as much or as little as you feel comfortable to do so, and hopefully leave feeling a little bit more brighter than when you arrived and with a little bit of a smile on your face. So just to sign off then, Mark, there's only one thing that we can do, isn't it? We can only just say it's okay to talk.
I got a broken finger, I have.
Do that like one.
So, thank you, Andy. Thank you so much. It's great, honestly. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you so much.